Welcome, friends,
to the How-To Heretic.
I'm Uncle Mark.
I'm Uncle Dan.
And I'm Uncle Doug.
And this is your user's guide to life on the outside.
That's right. Leaving religion is the first step into a larger, better world.
But it can also be a scary world. Oh. Things work differently now.
Never fear, that's why we're here.
We're your audio uncles. And with help from good friends and experts in all sorts of fields,
we're going to share the stories and seek the knowledge to build a great life.
After all, you only get the one that we know of, so you'd better make the most of it.
Gentlemen.
Hello.
Tally-ho.
Another week, another
Cheerio.
peek behind the veil, at the Grail, and we're all pale.
And various other rhymes.
Yes. Was that a limerick or a haiku? Or neither? Or both? It was all of the above. What a show. What a fun show we have this week. I think it's one for the books, if the internet has books. And I'm going to talk
if there were such a thing as books anymore.
Yeah, what are those even? So I will talk about, I guess, just the tip.
Indeed you will. I'm going to talk about technology and how it is enhancing all of our lives.
That's right.
And then I'm going to bring it home with a discussion about the joys of having your own individuality.
Yeah.
And how rare that thing truly is in our world today.
And that we're basically against it. We don't think
we're against
it. We're against it. No, it's not worth the trouble.
Hey, guess what, you guys?
Oh, my God, so much to talk about.
The How-To Heretic, this very show, has merch.
Merch,
there motherfuckers.
Merch online.
The Heretic is open.
Yeah.
Ding, ding, ding.
You can buy your T-shirts, your throw rugs, your various and sundry beer koozies, I'm going to guess. I'm not sure about
We went from having no merch to having merch.
That's right. We have so much merch.
We have tote bags. We got blankets. We got T-shirts. We got skateboards. We got stickers, magnets, buttons, coffee mugs. I am not kidding.
I'm getting a skateboard.
All
Do we have
love
skateboards?
Yeah, we got skateboards.
Fucking hell.
All love and appreciation to our dear listener. Can I say his name?
Yes, and my husband Jesse, who put this together without our three lazy asses even asking him. It just appeared. So
I think he got sick of us talking about it, so he just did it.
He's magical, and so good things have happened, and now you can support our show, and you get a thing in return.
That's right.
Yeah, get out there, show some heretic pride. For God's sake, somebody's got to have some pride in something these days.
And then there's one more thing. This, after all, the hits just keep on coming.
Yeah.
This podcast, The How-To Heretic, will now appear on YouTube.
That's right.
We have thus far, also because of laziness, not been on YouTube.
And, well, not just laziness. Also, we are old and out of touch.
That's right.
And
so a dear listener, Vern, that's his nom de guerre, gave us the great gift of segmenting our show. This is going to be a project over time, taking our show, separating the segments, and putting those on YouTube for your listening and visual pleasure, although it's just not as pretty to watch.
Yeah, the visual is just going to be one still image, so enjoy that.
A random still image taken from Pornhub that day. So this is a listener who's a really wonderful person who we met last year in Cincinnati at American Atheists, and this is a crazy labor of love this person has taken on to literally break out every single segment, which is now pushing 400, every single segment of the show, and just label it simply Noah's Ark or Genesis or whatever, so that you can enjoy them on your own, and it makes it super shareable to send to friends, to send to family, to send to enemies, to send to random strangers in towns you don't even know.
Yep.
So there you go.
So thanks for our listeners for doing the work this podcast should have always been doing.
Yes.
Our various listeners and husbands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, boy. And we'll keep reminding you of all this.
And if you want to do nice things for us, we will welcome that. Please write to us at howto@howtoheretic.com.
And also send emails saying you are a patron if you are a patron. And for the patron-only segment, which you will hear with the sexy guitar solo that precedes it on Patreon. So if you want us to talk about a subject of your choosing, send it in, and we'll try to get to it.
Yes, indeed. Oh, my God. Can we do a show now?
Let's do a show. Uncle Dan.
Yeah. Hi. Yes.
We sit here face to face.
Face to face. That's how we like to roll.
Yep.
I hate your haste.
Uncle Mark is off in the ether, the northern Canadian ether.
So he says,
And-
and I have no evidence of that. I don't know where he is.
Yeah.
Beaver
And
country.
like the subject for today's segment, his existence is a mystery.
It's so true.
Let it remain so.
That was a pretty labored attempt to get to a place, wasn't it?
No, it's fine. If you hadn't said anything, nobody would have noticed. Anyway, Uncle Mark, what the hell are you talking
That's the story
about?
of Doug's life. If you hadn't said anything, nobody would have noticed. Well, let's leave Doug's sad life aside for a minute. We'll come back to that.
Please no.
Do we have to?
Guys, it isn't exactly breaking news here on The Heretic that Catholicism is weird. Deeply, truly, profoundly weird. And it's always important to remember never to let our Catholic friends forget that. Oh, quick shout out to listener Julie for making me aware of today's subject. I appreciate it. This is a good one. So, unlike most traditions that celebrate the sacrament, they are the only ones who believe their wheat thin and wine turn into the flesh and blood of a man who died 2,000 years ago, and that never ceases not to be a fucked up way to spend a Sunday, no matter how you slice it. Catholicism is at base a cannibal cult. And how you can tell where your local cannibal cult might be located? Pro tip, look for a nearly naked Jew being tortured to death on the outside of a building. That's how you know you can eat and drink a piece of him inside. It's really just a menu with pictures on it, like the one at Denny's. So, and well, none of what I just said is really a joke because it's all true, or they think so anyway. Catholics now, and especially historically, are obsessed with death, martyrdom, specifically, and body parts, and the magic those parts and blood can do. In this way, they bear far more similarity to primitive tribal cannibalism and blood magic from parts of Africa, New Guinea, and South America than your average archbishop would be comfortable admitting. A person thought to have extraordinary powers in life leaves some behind in their hardware after death, so there is great power in the hair, bones, blood, and teeth of saints and holy men and women. Dan touched on some of these more gruesome and nauseating notions in his segment on medical cannibalism in episode 112.
I don't like the word touched on.
That
phrase bothers me.
You even touched my food during that one. So, and for those new to the idea of Catholic bread to flesh transubstantiation, rewind to episode 24 for a discussion about that. These alleged bits and bobs of saints so and so have another power, or rather, these corpses had a very real corporeal power in ages past to raise for the priests and abbots who kept them money. All across the unfortunate bits of the world under the brutal shadow of the Christian cross, churches hoping to attract pilgrims found themselves in possession of various femurs, incisors, phalanges, metatarsals, metacarpals, maxillas, and mandibles of the cast members of the stories of the Bible and the saints who died for refusing to deny the truths of those same stories. Many places did quite well off the pilgrim trade, since the local church authorities would also charge for the feeding and accommodation of the waves of pilgrims who came to see, I don't know, the rib of St. Peter, which somebody does have. One such monastery, the Abbey of Conques in France, hadn't a single molar of significance, and thus were missing out on the coins of the faithful. So, being the devious bastards the people of Conques are famous for being, they sent a monk of their own to infiltrate the orders of Agen, where the relics of Saint Foy were kept. This guy spent a decade working his way up to the keeper of the relics, and then he stole them.
Oh my God!
taking them back to Conques, where they quickly cashed in on this theft, known in Catholic circles as the act of simony, a very common crime in the days of big money relics. Named after Simon Magus, simony is the gravely evil act of selling church offices or sacred things.
I love it.
Who was Simon Magus? You're surely not asking. We meet this fellow in the 8th chapter of Acts, and if that historical fact sheet is to be believed, he was a magician in Samaria and became a follower of Jesus after he heard Philip the Apostle preach. He later saw Peter and John transfer the Holy Spirit to a man by the laying on of hands, and did covet that power, so he offered to pay them to give him it. Bad Simon Magus. Peter said,
I like to call him Simon Magoosh.
Simon Magoosh. Hey, Simon Magoosh. He was the Sicilian. So Peter said, may your silver perish with you because you thought you could obtain God's gift with money. Boo, Simon Magus. So from then on, Simon Magus would have a very rare and very particular crime named after him forever, simony, not even once. So
I call it Simonizing.
Simonizing. And if the Catholic Church has taught us anything, money is bad. So...
Right. They eschew that.
Money is bad, so give it to us and we'll take care of it for you.
Don't worry about it.
A people with a fancy country made out of golden statues say money is bad, Simon Magus. So, back to the care and feeding of money-making relics and why we should care. Remember, just a bit back when I said Catholic churches feature a human tasting menu on the street-facing side of their buildings in the form of a man dying horribly via a gruesome form of Roman capital punishment? Well, it turns out, fellas, there's just a wee bit of that sanctimonious but ultimately unlucky Jewish carpenter that is never on the menu when the Mass is delivered thousands of times a day all over the world. And that is because this tiny tip of the Christian Messiah was removed 8 days after his birth in accordance with Jewish tradition. Oh. Can you guess which bit?
That's always the bit that I was hoping I would get when I would take the Eucharist.
If you guessed foreskin, you're weird, but you're also right. Yes, on January the 1st, year 0 or year 1, I guess, the gold, frankincense, and myrrh-laden newborn was surprised by yet another gift. This one being having the tip of his little godhead sliced off, as described in Luke 2:21 for anyone demanding proof. But it is in the Apocrypha, where we find the Arabic infancy gospel, that we find a description of how somebody in the Bethlehem operating theater on the first day of the first year AD had the good sense to hang on to this little amputation. And I'm quoting this apocryphal bit of Bible now. And when the time of his circumcision was come, namely the 8th day on which the law commanded the child be circumcised, they circumcised him in a cave, which is nice. I guess manger to cave is kind of a lateral move. And the old Hebrew woman took the foreskin and preserved it in an alabaster box of old oil and spikenard. Quick note. Quick note. What the fuck is spikenard? No. For the last time, it is not an energy drink advertised on InfoWars, so please stop emailing me about that.
I think we could make it that if we need if we put in the effort.
Keep the Jews away.
It'll keep your frogs from going gay.
Also known as nard, something Doug covered somewhere, an aromatic glop much prized in what must have been a nightmarishly stenchy time in history. The seed pod of the spikenard plant is also on Pope. This is a real thing.
Please keep saying it. Keep saying the word.
The seed pod of the spikenard plant.
God damn it. The seed pod of the spikenard is my safe word. I have to change it now.
It's your safe sentence.
I'm going to start a band called Spikenard. Look for our album dropping next week.
Well, someone might have beat you because the seed pod of the spikenard plant is also on Pope Francis's papal coat of arms.
What?
So we'll come back to that. The story continues. This is again from the Apocrypha and of the Arabic, whatever the fuck it was. And she had a son who was a druggist. So to whom she said, "Take heed, thou sell not this alabaster box of spikenard ointment, although thou shouldst be offered 300 pence for it. Now this is the alabaster box," it continues, "which Mary the sinner procured and poured forth the ointment out of it upon the head and feet of our Lord Jesus Christ, and wiped it off with the hairs of her head." Yuck. Stinking, oily box with a baby's dick in it. Here, Jesus, let me rub it on your filthy bare feet with my hair, and surprise, the baby foreskin in it is yours. It's a little like finding out the fruit at the bottom of the yogurt is your tonsils. How does no one else see this as ghastly and weird? Fucking Catholics. So the dick in a box kicks around wherever for 800 years. And wouldn't you know it, It appeared on Christmas Day like a fine fat goose when the king of the Franks, Charlemagne, who, fun fact, was son of Pepin the Short, gave it as a gratuity to Pope Leo III for crowning him, Charlemagne, as Holy Roman Emperor.
Oh, my God. That's amazing.
And that rascal Charlemagne told Pope Leo that he had been gifted it by an angel when he prayed at the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem. But it turns out he probably received it from the Byzantine Empress Irene. So he re-gifted a dick in a box to the Pope. Trash move or power move? History's jury is still out on that one. So Leo III may have placed it in a casket in a chapel in the Vatican, from which it was taken by a German guy, huge surprise, when he was part of a group of mutinous soldiers that got mad about the lack of pay and trashed Rome in 1527.
Or he just liked spikenard.
Or he just liked baby dick. So he, the German guy, was captured in a little village called Calcutta, a few miles north of Rome, and the little church there took custody of the oily, moldy thing, and the pilgrims flocked to get a little magical backsplash from the supernatural tip of a demigod's dick. If you were a monastery in the magic baby dick business was good. But hold up. How do we know this little scab Leo III is the actual Jesus' turtleneck? Point the first. We can't and we don't. We can't prove the other 99.998% of Jesus even existed, making this even harder to do. Point the second. Pope Leo's little box of horrors wasn't the only Jesus foreskin shaking its moneymaker out there on the belief belt for pilgrims' pennies. It wasn't long before there were no less than 18 and as many as 21 Christ Crispy treats in holy sanctums all across Europe. This can mean only one of four things, uncles. Thing the first, all of them were real, which means in addition to walking on water and wine-making miracles, Jesus had at least 18 dicks. The implications of this realization are staggering, to say the least, but maybe that's why most portraits of Jesus are from the waist up. Thing the second.
Are you telling me that you don't think that that the Son of God can grow back a foreskin?
He's got Wolverine power.
He can totally do that.
Well, yeah, I mean, or they were all taken at once. I don't know. It was like a busy day for the Moyle. He was like, oh, Jesus, look at this. Thing
Another
the second, all of them were real. But rather than a hydra-headed demon penis, Jesus had one dick the size of an ottoman. Or, even more weirdly, a tiny regular baby peen, but a foreskin big enough to hold 50 pounds of potatoes, like a sacred Jewish kangaroo. Again, a staggering fact about Jesus we never discussed in Sunday school. Thing number the third. None were real, except the one Irene gave to Charlemagne, who gave it to Leo, who lost it to some pissed-off German who had it confiscated in Calcutta. The implications of this theorem are even more stupendous, as they seem to infer that at least 17 goodly Catholic bishops or abbots were lying about the provenance of their magical skin flaps in order to make money. Surely, it can't be this.
It can't be.
Thing number the fourth. None of them were real, for fuck's sake, don't be an idiot. So, for some reason, the Vatican's consensus was the one in Calcutta was the real one. For some reason, pilgrims continued to pour into Calcutta over the centuries, making them a lot of dough. This is until the little nubbin that modern viewers said, and I quote, looked like a little red chickpea, in Calcutta became a bit of an embarrassment for the 20th century Vatican, eager to catch up to the saner sensibilities of the 14th century. That somehow the Vatican decided venerating a 2,000-year-old penis part was even too weird for their bizarre standards.
What?
And in 1957, ordered people to shut the fuck up about it on pain of the worst sort of excommunication. There's apparently levels. And this one is to be declared, and I quote, infamous and to be avoided, which I think is also a 1-star review of this podcast. So
I'm pretty sure that is also a like one of the levels of mean girling that can happen in high school.
Exactly, at the popular table. So in the early 80s, the parish priest of Calcutta removed it from the church and took it home and put it in his closet, from which, gasp, it was stolen in 1983.
Yes.
Oh, no.
The authorities blamed the usual suspects, hippies, neo-Nazis, and Satanists for the theft. But author David Farley, who has written extensively on this quite sensitive topic, feels pretty certain that the culprit was, and get ready to get your Dan Brown on here, boys, the Vatican itself. That's right. Farley gumshoed this very partial postpartum kidnapping and concluded the parish priest was in cahoots with the Holy See's 7th SEAL Team 6, snatched the embarrassing prepuce and took it back, and took it back to the Vatican vault where they hide all their old embarrassments. Such a big, big vault for such a tiny, tiny country. Is this why Pope Francis has a spikenard on his coat of arms? Wink. But before we close, I'd like to offer a far more probable, reasonable explanation for the location of late Mr. Christ's foreskin. 17th century Vatican librarian Leo, not that Leo, Alatius, never believed any of the relics were authentic because he wasn't a crazy person. In fact, he expounded on the true location of the Holy Prepuce in his not written by a crazy person treatise titled A Discussion of the Foreskin of Our Lord Jesus Christ, that like the rest of Jesus...
I need to start writing these things.
No.
The titles alone make it worth it.
that like the rest of Jesus, the foreskin ascended skyward and then kept going and going and going. And according to Alatius, the tiny shard of a tiny baby's peen can be seen even today as the rings of Saturn.
That's amazing.
I did not see that coming.
So, as far as your uncles are concerned, case closed. And may I just say, in conclusion, Catholics. That's the Holy Prepuce, heretics. The more you know.
God.
Now get out there and commit some simony. It's a victimless crime.
Oh my goodness. That is amazing. And yeah.
Yeah, and if you can access any body parts you might think are holy, please send them to the How to Heretic.
That's right.
Care of Uncle Mark.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have quite a collection, actually. So before we talk any more about that, let's move on.
Jesus.
Uncle Doug,
Yo.
sometimes when I try to get on my computer, it's hard for me to remember all of the website addresses I like. Right?
And to deal with the keyboard being sticky all the time, huh?
Yeah, well, sure, if you say so. But when I go to, like, I want to order a new pair of Hage's slacks, I've got to type www.
Sansa-belt.
Yeah, and it just... And I just sometimes wonder, is everyone else out there as frustrated with this newfangled Al Gore's internet as I am? And is anyone able to find meaning on it?
Oh, meaning. The search for meaning.
Yeah,
man's
web search for
on
meaning.
the internet.
Right. Yeah.
It's pretty easy. You just go to goop.com.
Oh.
And you'll find everything you need to know. No, fellas, listen. This week, I went down a tricky little rabbit hole, and I'm really not sure how I'm going to do this today. Because here's the thing. With most of our segments, whether it's about an ancient god or a religious text or some strange belief, there's some research material available so that we can, have some context beyond just sort of the thing itself. Mm-hmm. Well, no such luck for me this time, because the phenomenon that I want to discuss today is relatively new, and the people involved are young, so it is very difficult to find any reliable information about them beyond what comes out of their own mouths and, what you hear from their followers or former followers.
Right.
So, with that said, I want to talk about online cults. And here's the thing. Traditional cults, can you have a traditional cult? Is that a thing?
Sure.
We'll call them offline cults.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
they're
traditional cult
usually,
is, say, Catholics.
that's very traditional.
Yeah.
They're usually very secretive. They hide away in the shadows. Sure, they recruit new members, but they usually do that person to person. They build their following by smelling out people who are feeling lost, and then they offer them answers. Mm-hmm. But it all happens kind of behind closed doors. So the rest of us don't even hear about them until after they go on a crime spree or kill themselves or whatever. Online
I don't know why I
cults.
laughed. I just laughed there. Yeah, that's funny. Mass suicides. You got me every time.
These are the jokes. The online cults, at least on their face, are kind of the opposite. They have YouTube channels, Instagram feeds, and MySpace pages or whatever the kids these days do. They want the thing is, if they want more followers, they can't rely on word of mouth. They have to work the algorithms, just like our show, except that we're a bunch of middle-aged guys who don't know what the fuck we're doing, and we just put a bunch of content out there and hope for the best.
Yeah.
Please tell your friends about this show. We really need the help. You guys, just tell somebody. I don't know.
Or your enemies. That's fine, too.
Just tell everybody. It's fine. Anyway, that said, it's a known fact that the internet is actually bigger than the real physical universe. So even with these people trying real hard to get their messages out to everybody, they still usually manage to stay pretty hidden. So I bumbled my way around all the intertubes until I found a couple of fine examples of internet cultiness, and I'm here to present my findings. As I said, there are no well-researched exposés on these people. There's no source material but their own output and a couple of short segments from Vice or MTV, which don't dig any deeper than just presenting what they see. The first cult I want to talk about is Unicult. Wait, I hear you say, because I'm psychic. The cult has the word cult in its name?
Right.
Yes, they do. They embrace that word. They also embrace the word brainwashing, which I guess is fair enough. Take back those words, you guys. Own them. They're yours.
Yeah.
Unicult is the online group founded by one Unicole Unicron. That's a misspelling of unicorn and presumably of Nicole.
I think it's a Bitcoin that gains self-awareness. Right?
Now, brace yourselves, people older than millennials, because Unicole's pronouns are they, them, or z, zer, and I only found that out right at the end of my research, so I've had to go back and change all of their pronouns, because not honoring someone's pronouns is a dick thing to do. But if you're not used to hearing they and them as a singular, you will need to get woker right now. And to those who are millennial and younger, I might mess up and call them her. I don't know. We're all just going to survive this together.
At him.
Everybody hold hands and sing a hymn. We'll be okay.
We don't want to misgender a URL.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So anyway, Unicole describes himself as a, quote, pop star cult leader from space. Of these descriptors, I can agree to cult leader. And man, do they own that cult leader shit. They also embrace the pop star thing, but if you hear any of their music, well, it's the rest of us who get to decide who is and isn't a pop star, and the fact that you've never heard of them kind of puts the lie to that notion.
You don't know that I never heard of them.
Have you heard of them?
No.
Now I do.
See, but that's what this show is about, is knowing things. Now,
That's
Doug,
right.
Now Doug gave Dan some knowledge, and we're done here.
And I have to forget my social security number now.
I don't know what that means. Anyway, the cult leader thing, bam, they got that on lock. The introduction to the introduction video on their YouTube channel is just a song with lots of flashing, swirling, seizure-inducing images and spinny spirals like an old-school sideshow hypnotist would use, along with creepy music that plays with the chant, "You are being brainwashed, you are being brainwashed."
Really?
And some other lyrics. And then later in the thing, "Give me your attention, give me your attention, give me your attention, give me your attention, give me your attention."
Awesome.
So, culty. They really got that one down.
So this is an ironic cult.
No.
Oh.
They mean that quite literally. They're embracing it, and they think that if you can sort of move your mind past the negative associations you have with brainwashing and that sort of thing, you'll be much better off, and you'll really just get what's happening.
Okay.
The bulk of their videos are recordings of their live broadcast, Cam Church, which seems to be, I think, weekly, but maybe not, maybe a couple times a month. It's a lot like most church, really. Prayers, a sermon, songs-ish, if you can call them that. But it's super informal, as you would expect from millennial / Gen Z doing church. One of the episodes I watched opened with about 5 minutes of Unicole themselves trying to adjust the on-screen graphics and responding to the chat window.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm interested.
Sure, why not? It's great. Unicole's theology seems to be a mishmash of crystals, rainbows, and magic spelled with a K, and all of that incoherent New Age nonsense. The only thing that's new seems to be the online packaging. But here's the thing. When you dig in a little, they've got a few points that I get, and I think that these ideas are what her small group of followers are really connecting to. In the opening song to their Cam Church video, they chant, "Your reality is reality. Your reality is legit. Your reality is reality."
Little hook there at the end.
Right?
Yeah.
Which could be seen as just more sort of New Age mumbo-jumbo, but they hit this idea really hard in their sermonizing. What seems clear to me is that Unicole didn't feel like they fit in. They grew up in a small town in Colorado and were an eccentric person and possibly had a small personality disorder. That's their thing, not mine. I'm not imposing that. And they didn't feel like they fit into the boxes that society had to offer. That sucks. I think a lot of people know what that feels like. So when they say to their followers, "Your reality is legit," they're saying it's okay to honor who you are and fuck the people who don't get that. And I think that that's a powerful message, and I'm 100% on board with it. And here's the thing. When we as a society neglect to get that message out to those who need it, we cede that ground to the fringy weirdos. And that can be very, very dangerous. There are vulnerable people out there feeling rejected and lost, and they need somebody to say to them that they are okay as they are. Well, Unicole is saying exactly that.
Yeah.
So, so a few of those rejected souls are going to really go for that. And when they do, they may want to accept a bunch of other shit that she has to say as well. And that's how you get crystals people. A brief note, she did at one point, they did at one point try to start a sex robot brothel. I thought that was an interesting thing. They put together a GoFundMe for that.
It's always a good idea to be the first customer at a robot brothel.
And you pay for the privilege, too. I think they were going to charge $7,000 for that for that privilege.
And $50 for the next guy.
Yeah, exactly. However, unfortunately, though the idea is obviously brilliant, they were only able to raise about $2,500 of their $110,000 goal.
Wait, they were going to open a robot brothel with $110,000?
100 and something. I think it might have been 150. I don't know.
I think it costs more than that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You can buy a lot of vacuum cleaners for $125,000.
No, they were talking about like full on animatronic, like robots, which don't let your mind go to the Chuck E. Cheese
late
on that.
Already there, baby.
Anyway, so that's Unicole. The other cult I wanted to highlight would be very unhappy to hear me use the word cult in referencing them, unlike Unicole. Meet the Twin Flames Universe.
Oh,
an
I like
online
it.
school founded by people calling themselves Jeff and Shalea, but whose real names, I think, are probably Jeff and Shalea. They're a millennial couple who found true bliss together, and they're going to teach you how to find the same. They believe that there are twin flames, which is a concept that they are adamant you do not properly understand. It's definitely not a concept of their own creation. The twin flames idea has been floating around the woo ether for a while, and it's pretty sticky. Generally speaking, twin flames means the same thing as soulmate, only more so. It's not just two people who are great for each other. No, idiot. As the law of attraction.com describes, they say a twin flame is, quote, a mirror soul or soul connection. A twin flame is the other half of your soul. It is theorized. I always love the wordings of these things. By whom? Just shut your fucking mouth. That's who.
It.
It is theorized that a soul can split into two after ascending to a high frequency. Therefore,
Oh, God, the frequencies again.
therefore, the soul lands in two different bodies. Well, Jeff and Shalia think that the law of attraction.com are morons who don't understand the twin flame concept at all. No, you're not two sides of the same soul. You're two souls manifested from the same divine blueprint. Not opposites, not the same, but complements. Two halves of the same soul? You mean you're just half a soul? Come on.
Idiots.
Get your shit together, would you?
Come on.
And I agree that two halves of the same soul concept is absurd. I also think that the rest of their concept is absurd. But there they go. They literally say that, your soul, you have a twin flame somewhere out there, and they will help you find it for money. And they have started a huge cult. They've got a big group, and it's all online. They release all of these videos. The early videos had two people, I would say, who looked like he looked like he was trying to be Jesus, which, spoiler alert, he does call himself the Master Christ. And she looks like she's going to complain to the manager.
She's a Karen.
She's a Karen.
Yeah.
So I watched a bunch of their videos, and here's the thing. On first blush, a lot of their stuff makes sense. And that's the thing about all cults, right? They start by making sense.
Yep.
And so I can see why people who have felt lonely, who have felt like they have, they want to get married or they want a soulmate and they haven't found it, I can see how they would turn to the online world and say, well, help me with this.
Yeah.
And if they happen to be unlucky enough to find Jeff and Shillelagh, they end up with a whole bunch of nonsense. And here's the thing. I didn't dive into there's so many videos and whatever. But what I did dive into was a bunch of the people who are former followers talking about what it was like and what happened when they made them finally get out. And man, what starts out as just relationship advice grows to crazy stuff. They have beliefs about how all twin flames are male and female. So if you're gay, they literally have encouraged their followers to assume a different gender identity. And like, if it's two women in a relationship, well, one of you is the man and it's you, and you are now a man and you need to change your name and you need to change your gender identity to be the man in this relationship. They end up, the more you buy into this, the more willing they are to bully you. And as they start to do that, they have a psychological effect that is powerful. And it's the same with all cults.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As if they start to help you, and that feels great, and then they make sure that you know how broken you are, and only they can fix you.
Yeah.
And then they've got you.
Yeah, and that's, this is classic Scientology behavior, right? They have, L. Ron Hubbard knew a little bit about kind of Sigmund Freud and a little bit about talk therapy. And so when you go into Scientology for the first time and hold the cans and they give you the personality test, and they can see some of your responses, they can, it's pretty easy for them to dial in. It's also kind of a hot read with what's wrong with you. And then they tell you what's wrong with you, and you're like, oh my God, this is amazing.
How did you know that? Just from me telling you.
Yeah. Exactly. And at the same time, they know how you're quote unquote broken. Right. They know how to exploit those vulnerabilities you have.
Yeah. So these two, their whole thing is that everybody has a twin flame out there. And by the way, can I just say, listener at home, you don't have a twin flame. You don't have a soulmate. I'm sorry. You just don't. There's a lot of people out there that you could be very happy with, and none of them will be perfect.
No, and thank God that you don't have. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
We're just all fucking weird ass apes.
And we try to make the best of
And
whatever we find.
Occasionally we pair off, and you got to work at it, and it doesn't always work.
And if there's only one person you are truly compatible with in the world, what a grim fucking statistic that is.
Yeah.
You're
And
never
also-
going to find them.
And also, it encourages really unhealthy behavior. So followers of Jeff and Shalia have been found, like a bunch of them have gotten restraining orders taken out against them because
wow.
they think they find their twin flame, and then they just harass the shit out of them.
Right.
Because they think they've found it. Well, let me tell you something. If you say, look, I can teach you how to find your twin flame to a person who's not very well socially adjusted, and they go out and they, become infatuated with a person, they're going to think that they have a mandate from the universe to harass this person into being their partner. And it's not healthy.
Why are you looking directly at me as you're saying all of this?
Doug, we have something we need to talk about with you.
We were going to do this off the air, but let's fucking do it.
Let's just go for it.
Yeah.
Let's just go for it.
Let's be vulnerable together.
It's an intervention.
The number of restraining orders I have makes it really hard to drive around Salt Lake City.
It takes him 4 hours to get to Dan's house.
You like to take a lot of twists and turns.
The app helps.
So yeah, I mean, here's the thing. You start with a vulnerability, like I can't seem to find a person to love me. And then you exploit and exploit and exploit. And let me tell you something. When you see these two, it's not like they look credible. When you see Unicron, she doesn't look credible. These are not people who have crafted an image to make them seem like they're gurus.
Yeah.
These are just normal-looking folk that dress kind of weird sometimes, and people are believing them just because they have a YouTube channel and 90,000 views on their best day.
But I felt the same. I always feel the same way about cult leaders when you look at them from the outside. Like L. Ron Hubbard is a perfect example.
Sure,
that guy is so alarming to look at, right? That I just don't. I've never fully gotten it, but it happens all too often.
Well, that's right. Yeah, I mean, sometimes you look at somebody and they've put in a little bit of effort. Rajneesh or whatever. You get a guy who wears some robes, or at least
he went to the trouble of making some sparkly space wizard shit and a beard, right? At least there was a little zazz, there was a little showbiz, but I don't know what I'm saying. Am I saying it's better to fall for a cult where the guy puts in a little effort? I don't fucking know. No, I'm not saying that.
Well, what I'm trying to say is when you're out there sort of looking for answers to your probing questions of the universe, you don't know who's the one that's going to suck you into a really bad way of thinking. Yeah. So they don't have a certain look. They don't have a certain thing. So the best that you can do is be solid in yourself. Believe in you already, so that you don't have to take somebody else's word for it when they try to tell you who you really are, or what you really should be believing.
And approach every mouse click with skepticism.
Yeah, including the one that got you to our show.
Yes, don't listen to a fucking word we say. We don't.
Don't take advice from the internet.
We're really bad cult leaders, but we're giving it a crack anyway.
Yeah, hey, at least with us, there will probably be snacks. Knowing us,
for sure,
almost certainly.
Yeah. So there you go. The cults, they've spread into the like a internet virus. They are spreading, and they are there.
Yes, congratulations, internet. You're killing it. So, all right, well, let's click off of this thing.
Let's move on.
Oh, boys, fellas, gentlemen.
Yes.
Here's the thing. This show, we do it. We're trying to get the word out. We want everybody to know about it, and some people do know about it, and the best ones of them decide that they're going to give us a little bit of their money so that we can feel good about keeping going and whatnot.
That's right.
This show is free, but it ain't cheap.
That's right.
Yeah.
It is ad-free. That is for damn sure.
That's true. And the way that we keep it that way is that people give us money, and we have some thanking to do.
Yeah.
So, thanks go to. Let's see. You know what? I'm just going to go in an order, and we're going to do some saints in the middle of it. So, Doug.
Oh boy.
Do a saint for Larry.
Larry, your saint.
Yeah, you get a saint.
Your saint with a taint is Saint Anastasia of the Mediterranean coast of Turkey. It is. She is the patron saint of expired passports.
Yeah.
The Dos Equis virus, and strife.
Oh, strife.
Just
There you
strife
go.
overall.
Yeah, that'll happen if you're not
Those
careful.
first two things can lead to the last, that's for sure.
Also, thanks to Adam, and a saint by Uncle Mark to Anthony.
Anthony, your saint, obviously, is just looking at the big book of saints, cross-referencing with your birth sign and rising sign. There we are. Saint Frigidaire of Thermopylae. And, of course, Frigidaire of Thermopylae is the patron saint of obscurantism, chiaroscuro, and most obviously Val Kilmer's stunt double. So, congratulations.
You just had to make my saint look stupid, didn't you?
No. Just
No, you did that
less
all on your
educated. Less educated, yeah.
That's great. So thanks to Corey. Thanks to Leah. And I have to do a saint
My
now
goodness.
for Don't Panic. So
I get that reference.
Great reference. Thank you.
yes, indeed. So Don't Panic. Your saint is Saint Flavius of Lemuria.
Yes.
And Saint Flavius is the patron saint of large-scale but human-powered flying machines,
Yeah.
of various vermin used as corporate logos, and of the of a moose.
Just one.
Did you say a moose?
Just moose in general.
Okay.
I feel like it was a specific moose, but if
It is a moose, but I'm not going to
Yeah.
tell you which one. You have to. That's for you to figure out. Don't panic. That's your own thing.
Yeah.
And then also thanks to Andrew. So thank all of you
Goodness
so
gracious, thank you.
much for everything
Wow.
that
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
doing
yeah.
for us, and the rest of our listeners, thank you as well, because
Yes.
they're just freeloading off of your generosity.
And we
Indeed.
can't go into details now, but your money does do things, and we will be talking about what that money is going to do in the near future. But just keep giving it and trusting that it's not just going to,
Up our
my
noses. Up our
golden
noses.
underwear section.
Yeah.
Wait, why would that be a problem?
But golden underwear?
Listen, if you guys have a problem with us snorting our golden underwear up our noses, that's on you. That's
You
You're
haven't
listening to
met
the
us.
wrong
That's not-
show.
You don't
You're
know
listening
us.
Yeah.
Go and get some merch. Go and get a T-shirt.
Yeah.
Also, thanks to everybody who has rated us on iTunes and beyond.
Yes.
Give us 5 stars. That makes you a good person too.
Indeed.
It does indeed. And now that you guys are new patrons that we just announced here, send us an email. Tell us you're a patron. Tell us what you want us to talk about in the patrons only section. That's your clubhouse now. Come on
That's
in.
right.
The warder's fine.
Order's fine.
Moving on.
Dan,
Yes, Mark.
who am I?
Well, I don't
Why
know.
are you?
We let's find a cult to figure it out.
Yes.
What is love?
What is kiss?
What is I? I don't have any answers for you, Uncle Mark. I think we should turn to the resident psychological genius of the
Yes.
podcast.
The resident
help us.
the resident finder of lost loves, Uncle Doug.
Yes, indeed.
That was a TV series. Did you know that? I think who was on that years ago? It was like in the early '90s. Finder of Lost Loves.
Oh,
Look it up.
Boy, I don't remember that at all.
Yeah, I think you made that up.
Nope. Maybe.
Well, in the search for answers, I don't have them. So let's get that out of the way at the beginning. Well, uncles, it's the stated purpose of this podcast to be a user's guide for life on the outside of religion, because after all, leaving religion is the first step into a larger, better world.
I feel like I've heard this all before. Yeah.
However, we often hear from listeners and friends who have recently left religion that they miss some of the things that religion provided.
Sure.
And often find themselves searching to replace those things.
Like pussy.
A sense of
Are we
community
recording?
and
Oh, shit.
No, don't worry about it.
a sense of community and belonging usually top that list. And while this podcast itself is an effort to create a community where religious refugees can feel like they belong, it seems as though atheists are often mournful of falling short of that effort. We try week after week to point out the absurdity of religious belief and how much better it is out here, warts and all. Mm-hmm. And that with a little effort, you can have all the things that religion once provided without all the baggage that comes along with the ride.
Yeah.
That's also why we are so hard on the various and sundry forms of woo. It seems unfathomable that one would slip out of the intellectual and emotional bonds of religion, only slip into others. But today I want to have a little bit of a discussion about something that the liberation from religion provides, that religion, even in its most benign and least vile forms, has not, will not, and cannot provide, and that is a sense of individuality and self-determination.
I thought you were going to say drugs.
No, well, that goes hand in hand. Some people have tried drugs, and I don't know who they are.
Nobody does.
It sounds flippant, but it's worth pointing out that the vocabulary of religion is shot through with language designed to squash the individual and dull one's sense of self-determination. Language like obedience, reverence, adoration, devotion, veneration, worship, sinfulness, atonement, penance, redemption, confession, sacrifice, and absolution.
I mean, I love listening to people describe themselves gleefully as sheep for a shepherd.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And your piousness is measured by your obedience, and it's crazy
and
deference and
yeah, assimilation.
yeah, and a lot of those things are noble in and of themselves. However, when employed by religion, it's a full frontal assault on individuality.
You said full frontal and got me excited.
Whatever.
Whatever.
You're welcome.
Whatever.
You're told to not explore your own self, not explore your own sexuality, your own doubts and fears. Don't overanalyze. Take what you're told as truth, no matter how absurd it sounds or how morally bankrupt it seems. Obey the hierarchy, for they are more holy than you, no matter how much filthy lucre they amass, how many children they rape, or how many suicides they cause.
Those were just the bad ones.
That's right.
Most of them are
If you
great.
take away all the bad examples, what you're left with is almost nothing.
Remember in the Hitchens and the Hitchens and Stephen Fry against the Catholic Archbishop and that horrid Catholic woman, member of Parliament, when somebody brought up the Catholic pedophilia scandal, and she's like, "I knew you would bring that up."
Correct.
Yes.
You did know
Fine,
that.
we won't bring up that.
What an asshole.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, sure. Bring up the things that make us look bad.
Yeah.
Exactly. So today I'd like to have a discussion with you two about finding oneself after religion and how we define ourselves once we are no longer identify as, say, Mormon, Catholic, Muslim, Hindu, whatever. And there's a couple of things that happened to me that made me think about this and want to discuss it with you guys. The first example is when I left Mormonism. For nearly a decade, I left my name on the records of Mormonism.
Sure.
For our Nevermo listeners out there, and I think this is true of all religions, your name is somewhere in a book or in a census or on a database. And if you leave the religion, some might feel compelled to remove their name from that religion.
Yeah, it's especially that way with Mormonism because Mormons love to talk about their numbers.
Yeah, their general conferences are nothing more than a sales report.
Right, yeah.
So I didn't care. I wasn't going to church. I wasn't paying tithing. So what the fuck did I care, right? That was until a friend of mine who happened to be a woman, and our Exmo listeners are going to kind of know where the story's going. She attempted to have her name taken off the records. And we've discussed on this show the legal hoops, the petty legal hoops you have to jump through that the church demands to get your names off the records, and then the shitty and unethical shit they do.
Quasi-legal.
Yeah, it's not legal. Legally, the second you say, please remove my name from your records, they're legally required to do so in these United States.
But they have $100 billion in the bank, and that affords them a lot of attorneys and senators and state legislators. So, okay, so... and then they'll also do some petty and shitty things and illegal things to try and prevent you from getting your name off the record. So this friend of mine's family was very devout, and if they found out that she was even having doubts, let alone trying to get her name off the records, it would be a disaster for her. So, of course, the church contacted her family's bishop, who contacted the family and told them. This caused my friend, who, by the way, was sent down the path of doubt by a badly handled sexual assault. It caused her a tremendous amount of pain and suffering, and it pissed me off to an end I didn't think I could get to. Now, when I was a captive of the cult, I would have and did side with the elders and contort myself in ways that I am ashamed of now to justify their words and deeds. Not anymore, though. Freed from captivity, I felt empowered to let these assholes have a piece of my mind for what they had done to a friend, and I wrote a letter. This letter was calibrated to get my name off the records and to leave no wiggle room for them to try and intimidate me or manipulate me. I'm going to read you my letter now.
Oh, goodness.
And, please remember here's my letter. Remember my state of mind at the time of writing was a little bit less than charitable in light of what had happened. So here's the letter I wrote to the church to get my name off the record. So with a couple alterations to hide some identities. My name is Uncle Doug, and I am hereby resigning my membership in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints effective immediately. As I am no longer a member of your religion, upon the receipt of this letter, I request that my name be permanently and immediately removed from all records. Although I have not been a Mormon for over 10 years, many recent events have conspired to compel me to seek legal separation from your sham religion. I am a returned missionary who served in the Honduras San Pedro Sula mission. Not only that, but I was on the seminary council in high school and attended BYU. I am therefore quite familiar with the deepest teachings of the church, including the curse of Cain, resulting in decades of church-sanctioned bigotry, the astonishing marital infidelity and serial child rape of Joseph Smith and Brigham Young, among others, the purchase of the White Salamander letter, the belief that Cain still walks the earth in the form of Bigfoot, as described in the Miracle of Forgiveness, the encyclopedic archaeological inconsistencies in the Book of Mormon, baptizing for the dead of Holocaust victims in the same over-chlorinated font as Nazis, the insanity of the three Nephites, the cocoon of lies surrounding the Mountain Meadows massacre, the pathetic and desperate attempts at meeting in the endowment ceremony, the utter silliness of garments, the violent and dangerous hatred of homosexuals, the wholehearted prostration at the feet of warfare and racism that constitute the not officially sanctioned political philosophy of the church, and did I mention fucking Bigfoot? I could quite obviously go on, but perhaps it is unnecessary. There is no amount of prayer and scripture reading that will convince me that the sun doesn't shine, or that stupid isn't as stupid does. However, my resignation does have one possible condition should you be willing to accept it. If you would be willing to commence excommunication proceedings against me, I would be delighted to participate. After all, 21 years of tithing should be worth something. For the purposes of excommunication, I will show up anywhere, anytime. My hunch, however, is that you will choose the coward's way out and simply remove my name from the records. So be it. Just know that I am an enemy of your church and your God, and if he does exist, he will strike me down where I stand for apostasy. Nope, still here. Although it is not legal, should you desire to share this letter with my emotionally and physically abusive parents, who, by the way, are members in good standing of your church, please feel free. My parents' name and phone number here. You can post this letter in Ensign, the New Era, Sunstone, or the Temple for all I care. Simple-minded intimidation will not change my decision. Excommunicate me. Oh, please, Sasquatch, excommunicate me. Or remove my name from your records. I don't care. But you sad, hateful, bigoted, misogynistic, homophobic, ignorant, overly inbred, and prodigious assholes can have my name no longer. If God exists, there is a heaven, and you people are there. I want no part of it. Bigfoot, seriously. Warmest and most heartfelt regards, Uncle Doug. So,
I think you had them until you included a swear.
Yeah,
and
that's actually true.
I also have the response I received from the church. Dear brother, this letter is to notify you that, in accordance with your request, you are no longer a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Sincerely, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So I felt so emboldened and freed to say what I felt and what I meant and to speak to the offense that friend of mine had gone through.
Uh-huh.
And I felt that to be so, obviously there was a lot of anger, frustration, and pent up everything coming out in that letter.
Totally.
But there was a form of freedom in that, where normally if I had remained in the cult, I would have just been stomping on that, all those emotions. Mm. And the other smaller, much less a consequential incident was, I told you about the other day at Mormon General Conference, I ended up in a nearly 3-hour discussion with a group of evangelical Christians that were there to challenge the validity of Mormonism.
Yeah.
When I told them I was an atheist, they spent half an hour trying to get me to admit that there were no true atheists, because that would mean a certain knowledge of the non-existence of God, which I freely admitted. But it was very, very important to them that I acknowledge that point. and they were pretty uncomfortable with the fact that my definition of myself could be so fluid. So I just, we often lament, or I think people who've just left religion often lament what they've lost, but they sometimes forget to talk about what they've gained. And that first and foremost is yourself. You're no longer required to be obedient to a hierarchy or a patriarchy. You're no longer told how to think, told where to go, told what to dress like, told what to eat.
Except by us.
Except by us, of course.
Yes.
And so I just kind of wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about that. Like, we get to determine our own fate, and that's a two-edged sword. But the other thing is we get to be individuals, and we get to explore our individuality in ways that you can never, ever, ever do when you're in a religion.
Well, that's the truth. They don't, that individuality thing, they'll talk about it. They'll make lots of stabs at wanting you to believe that they want you to be an individual. And then they will make sure that you are just part of the herd.
Yeah. It's sorry, Doug. It's the Mormon thing about, well, Jesus gave us the gift of free agency. Asterisk, but don't you ever fucking use it. Right.
Right. Exactly.
The gift's so precious, you must never open it.
Yeah, that was always one of the really funny things about Mormonism was like, yes, how much they loved to talk about free agency, and we all have agency, and blah blah blah. And here are all of the right answers.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly.
And you are not to stray from any of them in any way or even ask any questions about them.
You have free agency, but a woman wearing pants to church in 2018 was revolutionary. Yeah. So
Well,
that's how much Mormonism, just as a micro version of religion, the macro of religion, that's how much they respect free agency. They don't.
Well, and remember they talk about how in Mormonism is a perfect, a case study. They claim that the war in heaven was fought over the idea of free will, right? The reason God and Satan and Jesus got into a war was because Satan wanted to compel religious obedience.
Yes.
And Jesus wanted to allow for free will. And then in General Conference every year, they ask for the sustaining of all of the elders, of the leaders of the church. And if you were to raise your hand and disagree, you'd be in real trouble.
Yeah.
You'd be utterly shunned in your community. But
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, you're totally right, Doug. There is. We've talked about this a bunch on the show, but there is, for people coming out of especially high-stakes religion like the one we belong to, there is for whatever reason, you had to leave. You thought your way out of it. You read your way out of it, whatever. You witnessed people behaving so fucking horribly, you couldn't be part of what they were anymore. But you're out. So then there's this experience of kind of free fall, right, where all the answers, you traded your freedom and your autonomy for all the answers, like literally all the answers. You didn't have to think about abortion or gay marriage or miscegenation or where shit comes from or the origin of life or the universe or anything, right? It just was handed to you. So now you got to go through all that shit on a case-by-case basis.
Right.
And it's dizzying, right? It's a dizzying time. And the other thing you have to do is you really have to have, you suddenly are able to look at yourself under your own terms. And so the way you have been taught to see yourself as broken, and as Christopher Hitchens said, born sick and commanded to be well, is a hideous worldview, but it's very hard to unwire it, right? It's very hard just to be like, you know what? I'm not that fucking broken. I'm a good person. Right. I'm a nice person. Yeah. There's no reason I have to think of myself in those ways. That, I think, is one of the hardest things to unwind.
Yeah, here's the ironic part, is that, yes, you are taught how broken you are, and that's a big thing. The other side of that coin, though, is that you are also taught that you're magic. And you are also taught that there is magic in the world, and that the universe is so much bigger than just the physical things that we can see, and that there's so much more than just what we know, and blah, blah, blah. And then you leave, and let me tell you something. I did not want to let go of that thought.
The magic.
Yeah.
I wanted there to be magic in this world, and I wanted me to be magic in this world, and I knew that the Mormonism thing wasn't true because I had tried the magic and failed.
Yeah.
That didn't mean I wanted to give up on magic. So I totally understand why people would rush to woo, why people would want
Yes,
to go
very much
to
so.
crystals or fucking, anything. And you want there to be magic.
Right.
You want the universe to be bigger than just things around you.
Yeah.
Well, and of course it is, but I think that's such a beautiful sentiment that you're taught that the magic is this very particular sort, right? You're taught it comes from this book, and there's a certain priesthood that has the ability to access this magic. You may or may not, in some small measure, depending on where you went to church, but there is real magic in the world, Dan. They just sell you something else. They don't. There's nothing more magic than the fact that, as Paige said, my left hand comes from a different star than my right hand does, right? And that every fucking living thing on this planet is interrelated. That's fucking magic. And that of course is terrifying to them. They say, no, there's talking donkeys and a snake made somebody eat an apple. It's a whole thing.
Right.
That's the magic they're trying to sell to you, which is absurd and childish and stupid when they're trying to keep you from ever looking at what is truly beautiful and magical and a little scary about the world.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to push back on something that you said because I found my salvation in letting go of the concept of magic. What helped me and made me feel great. I'm not letting go of the wonder. I'm not letting go of awe. I'm not letting go of beauty. All of that is still it was actually enhanced by me leaving the church.
Right.
Totally.
When I left religion, suddenly I was like, holy shit. People don't want everything to be have come about through random bumpings of atoms. I love that shit.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. And maybe I used the wrong word,
Well, no, you can use the word magic, and I'm not trying to tell anybody else not to use the word magic.
Yeah.
But for me, in my journey, letting go of that and just saying, oh, all of that magical thinking is bullshit.
Yeah.
Right.
There aren't ghosts. There aren't fucking, flying saucers. There aren't whatever. It's
no
all
angel
of that
is looking out for you.
Well, and that's exactly the point that I want to talk to you guys about is you decided.
Yeah.
You got to make that call. You got to go through that journey. You got to grapple with these ideas, and then you got to make the decision of I believe this and I don't believe that, and I love this and I don't love that. That's what we get.
Yeah.
Outside of religion is we get to choose. We get to try anything once. We get to see what we think about it. We get to make a decision about it.
I mean, we don't get to try everything.
You
don't try murder. Just don't. Well, don't try rape. Don't try there's a lot of things not to try. The morality is actually more real when it's yours.
I think it goes not without saying, but perhaps without dwelling on that there are certain things that you shouldn't try once.
Right. But what I'm saying is that actually it's important to note that your morality is yours and you have to figure it out, and it's important to actually do the work of understanding your morality.
Yeah.
There are some universal concepts about not doing harm to other people, but you need to sort out what your morality is, and it's a job, and it's hard,
right. And it doesn't
work.
stop. And
That's right. You modify it as you go.
That's right. Dan and I have been out of, Dan and Doug and I have been out for decades of religion. And I'm constantly, Dan earlier in the show was talking about pronouns. Well, the world and society and things keep presenting new challenges to morality. And how do you contend with them, right? And that's what it's, you don't just arrive at a place. Religion is arriving at a place and stopping. Right?
Yeah.
This is the information I need. There is no more. Doesn't matter what information, how society changes or the universe or whatever. I'm done with wrestling with those questions. Well, being a skeptic or an atheist, you are never done wrestling with those questions. It is an open-ended question, morality, right? And you constantly have to adjust. And that's a perfect example.
I would say, just to push back on both of you, and you'll get what I'm saying, Dan, you said you need to develop your own morality, and Mark says we have to develop our own morality. I would just push back and say we get to. That's what's glorious, is we're not being stunted by a 3,000-year-old blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
That we get to grow and we get to expand our minds in ways that religious people are not allowed to do.
Yeah, and if you want to see, if you want to test the waters of like whether that whatever religion it is actually embraces the concept of individuality, try pushing back against any of their theological concepts.
Yeah,
say I like Catholicism. I'm the kind of Catholic who believes abortions are great, and then just see how they feel about that kind of Catholic.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
They're not on board.
Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. See how long you're welcome to stay in that church.
Right, exactly. It's an easy test to run.
Yeah. So
But
it is.
yeah, I think that is one of the glories of being of letting go of religion is the ability to just think for yourself and be your own, find your own way.
Yeah, and disagree.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing is
sorry, I was just going to say really quickly about that. It is a scary time when you step out of the known into the unknown, but ride that swell. Like get used to that kind of the sense of excitement that comes with not knowing and having to figure it out. Right? Yes, it can scare you, and there is a sense of fear, but turn that into a sense of excitement. Like Doug says, you get to do this now.
Yeah.
You get to wrestle with these questions, and you get to do it with your 5 fucking senses that you were supposed to turn off when you were in the church, right? It's going from black and white television to color.
Yeah.
Very much so.
And I would just simply, to kind of round it all out, say, everything of value that religion offers, whatever that might be, and it's not much, we can recreate.
Yeah.
If it's a sense of community or it's, charity, any of those things can be recreated outside of religion.
Right, they don't own those.
No, but they can never recreate inside of religion that sense of individuality and personal destiny that you get on the outside.
And honesty and integrity to what you are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not to what everybody is supposed to be. And trust me, there is no thing that everybody is.
Right.
There's no formula that counts for everybody. It just doesn't exist.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if you're going to try and do that, you're going to be pounding, 300 million square pegs into round holes and causing suicide and misery and all kinds of shit.
So love your square peg. Love the weirdness that is you. Embrace it, own it, enjoy it.
And take it easy on yourself. I think that's huge, huge. So
Did we solve it? Did we fix it?
once
Are we
again,
done?
the world's a better place. Oh, fuck, I forgot to record. We got to do that again.
Okay, well, you're welcome, everybody.
Yes.
Your lives are all better now. So
Love ya.
Let's move on.
Let's move on.
Well, friends, that's it for this week's show.
Hey, we'd love to hear from you. Send us an email, howto@howtoheretic.com.
Or if you have 18 penises, I guess, you can leave us a voicemail about it at 903-88-HOW-TO, which is 903-884-6986. You can also tell me all about it or send me a picture of it on Twitter at HowToHeretic.
And thanks to our awesome patrons.
And thanks to Cody Layton for editing the show.
And thanks to all of you for tuning in.
Bye, friends.
Bye-bye.